The head of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, warned today there's not going to be a grace period for Greece if it does indeed miss this debt payment deadline. Talks continue, but we're getting closer to that end of the month deadline for Greece. So does that mean it's more likely that Greece is not going to make it?
Well, yes, they need the money from the Eurozone group to pay the IMF bill at the end of this month. The IMF does not renegotiate debt. It is the lender of last resort. But it has said that, the payment is due. I think ultimately, if there's no agreement between now and the 30th of June, the Eurozone group governments have probably made privately assurances that they will make good on what Greek government owes the IMF, but they're not going to make that public to give the Greek government leverage.
And why, in your view, would they be doing that? Is there concern about contagion if there is a default in Greece?
No, I don't think it's that. I think the possibility of contagion, financial market, is very, very small now compared to 2012. Lots of reasons for that. The firewalls, but also most of the debt's held within the sovereign level by other governments. I think the reason is moral, really. The US government and the Canadian government, possibly the UK government, would revolt at the idea that a Eurozone government like Greece can't make good on an IMF debt while being in the Eurozone group. Otherwise, what does solidarity mean in the Eurozone if the others can't help Greece out? So I think they'll make good on that privately, but not publicly, because that would give leverage to the Greek government.
So what, in the end, do you think is the biggest risk right now for Greece over the next 2 weeks?
Well, the downside risks for no deal are much, much greater than the downside risks for a deal, even a bad deal. I think what's critical, obviously, for Greece is that if it doesn't get a deal, it doesn't get any money. It relies completely on its own banks for a little bit of credit. That's the only credit going into the economy. And the main source of financing of government payments, pensions and salaries. I think the critical point that is really the Greek banks and what happens to them. I think the European Central Bank will not pull the liquidity lines, pull the plug on Greek banks. It's keeping them afloat, of course, unless it gets the political nod from the leaders, Angela Merkel, François Hollande. So it is a difficult situation for Greece. I think there's a lot more time to be played, I think, than many think in terms of these deadlines, although there is a drop-dead deadline, I think, within the next month. The Greek banks really is critical for financing the Greek government. The IMF, the Eurozone group, can more or less wait it out on the sidelines and watch the slow economic deterioration. We see tax revenues are faltering. There'll be government shutdowns, increasing arrears internally to suppliers to the Greek state. The situation will deteriorate and the bank deposits will leak. And I think that'll be the real critical thing, because it'll undermine the basis on which the Greek state can be funded. So that's probably the next scenario, I think, if they don't get a deal.
Well, we very much appreciate your insight, Jan Randolph of IHS. Thanks so much. I'm Rhonda Schaffler for The Street.